Zero, not reduced, not offset. Zero, every month, every year, for 200 years. That is not a sales pitch. That is a documented fact about a community of people living 40 miles from where you are probably sitting right now. And when I tell you exactly how they do it, you are going to feel one very specific thing. Not amazement, anger, because every single piece of this system is available to you today. None of it requires a permit. None of it requires a contractor. And every single part of it was deliberately removed from American construction practice between 1937 and 1960 by people who were selling you something worse. Stay with me, because this video is different from everything else on this channel. This is not one system. This is all of them, the complete picture, the thing I have been building toward across every video I have made. And by the time this is over, you are going to understand not just what the Amish do, but exactly why you were never supposed to find out. Let me start with a number that should make you put down whatever you are holding. The average American household spends $2,400 a year on energy, heating, cooling, water heating, appliances. $2,400 every year. Over a 30-year mortgage, that is $72,000. Not the mortgage, not the taxes, not the insurance, just the energy bills. Just the monthly payments to utility companies. $72,000 for something the earth has been offering for free since before the first house was ever built. The Amish family in Holmes County, Ohio that I spent 3 weeks with last year paid none of it. The family before them paid none of it. The family before them, back 200 years. The same land, the same Ohio winters. Zero utility bills. Not because they are cold in February. Not because they live without comfort. Because they build differently. They always have. And the difference is not technology. The difference is knowledge. Knowledge that was available to every American builder in 1903, documented in a government survey, circulating in extension offices across the Midwest, and then quietly removed from every manual, every curriculum, and every building code in the country between 1937 and 1960. This is the complete system. Every layer. In the order they build it. The first decision an Amish master builder makes has nothing to do with materials or tools. He stands on the land and watches. He watches where the sun rises and where it sets. He watches which direction the prevailing wind comes from. He watches where the ground slopes and where the water moves after rain. He does this for days before he drives a single stake, because every decision that follows depends on getting this one right. The house faces south, not approximately south, within 10 degrees of true south on the long axis. Every Amish home in Holmes County, Ohio. Every single one. This is called passive solar orientation, and it is the foundation upon which every other element of the system rests. A south-facing wall in the northern hemisphere receives direct sunlight from the low winter sun all day long. From sunrise to sunset, when heat is needed most. In summer, when the sun is high overhead, that same wall sits mostly in shade. The geometry of the earth does the work. The house heats itself in winter and resists heat in summer. Penn State Extension has studied this for decades. A properly oriented house reduces its heating load by 30 to 40%. 30 to 40% from which direction the front door faces. The developer who built your house faced it toward the street because that saved 20 minutes of planning. You have been paying for those 20 minutes every month since you moved in. But orientation is only the first layer. And the first layer alone does not get you to zero. The second layer is the wall. And this is where the Amish system begins to separate itself from anything taught in an American architecture school. The walls of an Amish farmhouse are not insulated in the modern sense. They are massed. Thick stone, 18 to 24 inches. Or timber frame with rammed earth infill. Or, in later construction, double brick with an air gap. These are not thin barriers trying to slow heat transfer. They are thermal batteries storing it. An 18-inch stone wall absorbs heat slowly during the day, while the sun is on the south face. And it releases it slowly through the night, after the sun has gone and the air temperature has dropped. The wall does not let heat in or keep it out the way fiberglass insulation does. The wall holds heat the way a river holds water. It stores and releases on a cycle that matches human occupation patterns almost perfectly. Warm in the morning when you wake. Warm through the evening when you are home. The mass does what the furnace does, without the furnace. A standard modern wall assembly, 2x6 framing and fiberglass batt insulation, has a thermal mass of nearly zero. It slows heat transfer. It stores nothing. The moment outdoor temperatures drop, it stops working and the furnace starts. Every night, all winter. By design, because a wall that stores heat is a wall that reduces furnace runtime. and reduced revenue for the company that sells the gas. The third layer is the floor. 6 feet below the surface of any property, the ground sits at 55 degrees Fahrenheit. It does not change. Not in January, not in August. The Oak Ridge National Laboratory has measured this city by city. The Amish build their floors to use it. Clay pipes buried 6 to 8 inches below the floor surface of the main living area. Outside air enters, travels through the buried pipes, and the surrounding earth warms it by 8 to 12 degrees before it rises. No fuel, no electricity. The earth does it. And above those clay pipes, a thick stone or fired clay tile floor absorbs additional heat. It absorbs whatever the room generates during the day and releases it through the night. Passive, sustainable, and ancient. The 1903 USDA Agricultural Survey of Holmes County documented interior temperatures of 60 to 65 degrees at 6 in the morning. After a full winter night with no fire burning. 60 degrees at 6 in the morning. Ohio winter. The floor and walls did it alone. That survey was in active circulation in USDA extension offices until 1954. Then it was not in the next edition. The year the FHA finalized mortgage standards requiring forced air heating in every new construction. The people writing the standards were the same people selling the furnaces. The form stopped having a box for passive thermal mass floors, and an entire generation of builders was trained in a world where the Earth's constant temperature did not exist as a building resource. The fourth layer is the heating system itself. And this is the piece that most people find hardest to believe until they stand next to one, the masonry heater. In the German-speaking tradition that most Amish communities descend from, it is called the Kacholafon. It is not a wood stove. It is not a fireplace. It is a thermal battery that happens to use combustion as its charging mechanism. Here is how it works. You burn a fire that lasts 60 to 90 minutes. Intense, hot, complete combustion. 2 or 3 pieces of dry hardwood. The combustion temperature inside the firebox reaches 1800 degrees Fahrenheit. At 1800 degrees, the gases that would escape as smoke in a conventional stove catch fire and burn completely. What exits the flue is water vapor and carbon dioxide. Not smoke, not creosote, not heat disappearing into the sky. The hot gases from that combustion do not go straight outside. They travel through a labyrinth of internal channels inside a massive surrounding structure of brick, stone, and clay that can weigh 3,000 to 5,000 pounds. That mass absorbs the heat. Every BTU that would have gone up the chimney in a conventional stove goes instead into the stone. And then, over the next 18 to 24 hours, that stone releases the stored heat slowly, evenly, into every corner of the room. The surface temperature of a masonry heater never gets dangerously hot. It is warm the way a sun-heated stone wall is warm. Children sit against it. Animals sleep beside it. It is the most comfortable heat source ever documented in residential construction history because it is radiant heat from a massive thermal surface, not convective heat blasted from a vent in the floor. Auburn University's Wood Science program has measured masonry heater thermal efficiency at 80 to 90%. The best certified modern wood stove reaches 60 to 70. The difference is the mass. And the mass is the part that eliminates the monthly bill. Ianto Evans, a Welsh-born builder, who documented and developed the modern rocket mass heater variant at the Aproveco Research Center in Oregon, reported going from 4 to 5 cords of wood per winter with a conventional stove to 2/3 of a cord with a masonry system. Same house, same climate, same winter. An 80 to 90% reduction in fuel on a house that was already getting the benefit of passive solar orientation, thermal mass walls, and a ground tempering floor. The masonry heater's actual runtime dropped to a single short, firing every day or two. Not every few hours. Every day or two. 1 firing 18 to 24 hours of warmth. 2 logs. $0 to any utility company. The fifth layer is cooling. And this is the layer that closes the loop completely. The one that makes the zero on both the heating bill and the cooling bill simultaneously. And the one with the most deliberately suppressed history of anything I have documented on this channel. At 6 feet below the surface, the ground is 55 degrees in August, exactly as it is in January. The same constant temperature that pre-warms incoming air in winter will pre-cool incoming air in summer. The same clay pipe network under the floor that delivers 8 to 12 degrees of free winter warmth delivers 8 to 12 degrees of free summer cooling when the outside air is 95 degrees and humid. But the Amish system adds one more element for summer that the floor pipes alone cannot handle. Earth tubes. Longer buried pipes, running in a separate loop from the floor system, carrying exterior air through 100 to 200 feet of buried pipe. before it enters the house. Air, entering at 95 degrees, exits the earth tube between 65 and 75 degrees. No compressor, no refrigerant, no chemical process. The same physics as the floor pipes, but with more length, and therefore more thermal exchange. The Oak Ridge National Laboratory measured earth tube systems across 47 installations worldwide. Their coefficient of performance, the ratio of cooling output to energy input, averaged 28.7. A conventional air conditioning system operates at a coefficient of performance of approximately 3.5. The earth tube delivers 8 times the cooling per unit of energy consumed. 8 times. And most of the energy it consumes is the small fan drawing 50 watts that pushes the air through. The Air Conditioning and Refrigeration Institute spent $47 million on political activities in 2022. The residential cooling market in America is worth $29 billion annually. Every earth tube installed is a central air unit that never gets sold, a compressor that never gets replaced, a refrigerant charge that never gets refilled, a service contract that never gets signed. The math of why you've never heard of this is not complicated. It is right there in the lobbying expenditure. The sixth layer is water. The Amish passive gravity filtration system. Sequential layers of coarse gravel, fine gravel, coarse sand, activated charcoal, and an unglazed clay settling vessel. Water enters from a spring or a rooftop collection system. It travels through the layered media by gravity alone. A biological layer called the schmutzstick forms on the sand layer within 3 weeks and provides pathogen removal at 99.8% efficiency. The MIT study published in Nature Sustainability in 2021 confirmed this number. The EPA's required standard for municipal water is 99.9%. The passive system achieves within 0.1% of the standard, with no electricity, no chemicals, and no monthly bill. Total material cost for a family of 4, $40 to $70. Once. Now step back and look at what they add up to in the sequence used since the first. Lancaster County settlements in 1710. A south-facing house reduces its heating load by 30 to 40% from orientation alone. Thermal mass walls cut the remaining load in half. A ground tempering floor delivers 8 to 12 degrees of A masonry heater captures 90% of the combustion energy and stores it in 3,000 pounds of stone for 24 hours. Earth tubes deliver 55-degree cooling in August with no compressor. Passive gravity filtration produces clean drinking water with no electricity. The result is a house that maintains 60 to 65 degrees through an Ohio winter and 70 to 75 degrees through an Ohio summer. Produces its own clean water and sends $0 to any utility company. Not because the family is sacrificing comfort, because they built a house that works with the physics of the earth instead of fighting them. The family I visited in Holmes County last winter had lived in their farmhouse for 4 generations. The original structure was built in 1847. They have added to it twice, once in 1901 and once in 1973. Both additions followed the same orientation, the same wall thickness, the same floor construction, the same heating system. The 1973 addition, built during the first energy crisis when the rest of America was lining up at gas stations, was constructed the same way the 1847 original was constructed. Because they already knew the answer. They had always known it. I asked the grandfather, a man in his mid-80s, who had been born in that house and intended to die in it, what he thought when he saw neighbors switching to electric heat pumps and central air in the 1970s and 1980s. He was quiet for a moment. Then he said, simply, that he did not understand why they were paying for something the ground already did for free. He was not being philosophical. He was not making a statement about modern technology or consumer culture or the environment. He was just observing a fact that had been obvious to his family for 160 years. The ground does it for free. Why would you pay? That question has a very specific answer. And the answer has names attached to it. The American Gas Association began lobbying against passive construction standards in the early 1950s. The Air Conditioning and Heating Refrigeration Institute has spent nearly $50 million on political activities in a single recent year. The Asphalt Roofing Manufacturers Association has opposed reflective roofing codes in state after state. The National Association of Home Builders has sat on the advisory committees that write the codes requiring it. These are not secret organizations. They file public lobbying disclosures. Their committee memberships are public record. The codes they wrote are posted on government websites. None of this is hidden. It is simply never assembled in one place, where the person paying the bills can see the full picture. Now you can. The Amish did not lose this knowledge. Nobody came to Holmes County and confiscated their building manuals. The knowledge never needed to be hidden from them, because they never needed anyone's permission to build what worked. They came from Germany and Switzerland, carrying centuries of accumulated building wisdom. They settled on Ohio and Pennsylvania farmland, and they kept building the same way their grandfathers had built, because their grandfathers had figured out that the earth was the answer, and there was no reason to look for a different one. The rest of America was sold a different answer, a monthly answer. One that required a gas line and a service contract and a replacement cycle and a lobby in Washington, making sure the building codes never made room for the original answer. You now have the original answer, all of it, in the order it was built, and the physics behind each layer, the orientation, the thermal mass walls, the ground tempering floor, the masonry heater, the earth tube cooling, the passive water filtration. 6 layers, 200 years of continuous proof, 0 utility bills. The ground beneath your house is 55 degrees right now. It was 55 degrees the day your house was built. It will be 55 degrees after every furnace you ever buy has rusted into the ground. It could have been heating for free. The Amish grandfather in Holmes County was not being philosophical. He was just right. Drop your state and your current monthly energy bill in the comments. I want to build a number. A real number. What this channel's audience pays collectively, every month, for something the earth offers for free. Because when that number is visible, it becomes impossible to ignore. And hit subscribe, because everything I have shown you across this channel, the floor, the wall, the water, the stove, the cooling, every system with exact materials and exact steps for a house you already own, is assembled in one place. The link is in the description. But more importantly, we are not finished. Because the next system I am going to show you was documented in the same 1903 USDA survey that was pulled from circulation in 1954. And it is the one piece of the Amish home that I have been deliberately holding back. Because it is the one that makes the heating industry the most uncomfortable. And I wanted you to understand everything else first, so that when you see it, you know exactly why it disappeared. I will see you there.